You open your eyes at 5 a.m., and instantly, a suffocating dread settles over your chest. Society tells you this heavy, unexplainable exhaustion is just a midlife crisis, a glitch to be medicated. But Carl Jung, the pioneer of the human unconscious, saw this morning emptiness differently. He didn't call it a disease. He called it a desperate warning from your neglected soul. That morning dread is not your body failing. It is the crushing weight of the mask you've worn for 20 years. The inner citadel. Today, we explore the hidden battleground of your morning routine, where modern neuroscience meets ancient philosophy. If you are in your 40s or early 50s, you are currently navigating what psychologists call the rush hour of life. You are trapped in the center of a storm. Aging parents, growing children, and the relentless pressure of a career that suddenly feels profoundly hollow. You have done everything right. You played by the rules. You built the life you were told to build. Yet the U-shaped curve of human well-being, backed by millions of data points worldwide, reveals a dark truth. Human misery mathematically peaks in our late 40s. The achievements that once fueled your 20s and 30s now feel like ashes in your mouth. To escape this creeping void, we numb ourselves. We scroll through glowing screens before we even physically get out of bed. We drown the silence with endless media, alcohol, or the frantic, desperate busyness of our daily obligations. But Carl Jung warned us about this precise moment. He called the first half of life the stage of adaptation. During adaptation, you build your persona, the social mask. You become the reliable provider, the obedient employee, the perfect, uncomplaining parent. But to construct this flawless mask, you had to cut away every piece of yourself that didn't fit society's narrow mold. Your unconventional dreams, your raw anger, your unexpressed grief, and your true desires, they didn't just disappear. Jung said they were banished into the dark basement of your unconscious. He called this collection of rejected fragments the shadow. And right now, at this stage in your life, that shadow is demanding to be integrated. The basement is overflowing. The morning dread you feel is the immense psychological energy required to keep that basement door shut for another day. Neuroscience confirms this battlefield. Recent studies on brain health during midlife reveal a critical biological phenomenon called the Cortisol Awakening Response. Within 30 to 45 minutes of opening your eyes, your brain triggers a massive surge of cortisol, the primary stress hormone. This biological spike evolved to give you the energy to hunt and gather. It is simply supposed to wake you up. But when you are carrying decades of repressed shadow material, your exhausted nervous system misinterprets this natural cortisol surge as an imminent threat. Your body physically prepares for war, while your conscious mind frantically searches the environment for the invisible enemy. Finding no physical predator, your mind projects the danger onto your life, your job, your spouse, your aging body, or your bank account. This is the precise intersection where Jungian psychology and modern neuroplasticity offer a profound, life-altering solution. Your brain in midlife is not rigid. It is highly plastic, constantly pruning old connections and forming new ones based on your daily cognitive inputs. The Stoics understood this intuitively. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, faced staggering betrayals and a devastating plague. Yet he mastered his mind by weaponizing his morning routine, not to maximize productivity, but to fortify his spiritual citadel against the chaos. So how do we apply this ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience to to the critical 45-minute window that dictates your day. We must completely dismantle the modern morning routine. The self-help industry tells you to wake up at 4 a.m., take an ice bath, and hustle. But for the midlife soul drowning in exhaustion, forcing more rigid discipline is like whipping a tired, dying horse. It only deepens the internal fracture. What you need right now is not more aggressive productivity. What you need is the radical, unflinching integration of your divided self. The first step is to recognize the profound sanctity of the threshold state. When you first wake up, your brain is operating in the slow theta and alpha wave frequencies. This specific neurological frequency is the fragile bridge between the vast, chaotic dream world of your unconscious and the structured waking reality of your persona. It is the exact moment the heavy iron door to your inner basement is slightly ajar. The shadow is standing right there, waiting to be acknowledged. But what do most of us do in this sacred, highly vulnerable window of time? We reach blindly for our smartphones in the dark. We instantly flood our delicate neural pathways with urgent emails, global tragedies, and the curated, fake accomplishments of strangers. By doing this, you violently slam the basement door shut. You force the brain immediately into a high-alert, anxious beta state. You have successfully distracted yourself from the internal morning dread, but at a terrible, hidden cost. The shadow's energy has nowhere to go. So it mutates. It goes underground, infecting your nervous system, manifesting later in the day as chronic back pain, sudden outbursts of rage, or a slow-burning depression. Carl Jung famously stated, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Grabbing your phone and avoiding the silence at 6 a.m. is the exact moment you hand over the script of your life to that invisible, destructive fate. Instead, you must practice what the Stoics called prosach, the art of profound, unyielding attention to the fortress of your inner citadel. Tomorrow morning, when that heavy, suffocating dread wakes you up, do not run from it. Do not reach for a screen or a distraction. Lie completely still in the dark. Let the biological cortisol spike hit you. Feel the physiological panic wash over your chest without moving a single muscle. This is the true crucible of midlife transformation. You are intentionally inviting the terrifying shadow into the pure light of your consciousness. In that quiet space, ask the exhaustion a direct question. What part of me is so tired of pretending? What dangerous truth am I avoiding today? At first, there will be only deafening silence or a sudden, sharp spike in anxiety. Your ego will fight desperately to escape the discomfort. But if you can hold the space, if you can breathe steadily through the body's alarm bells, a profound psychological alchemy begins to occur. You will start to hear the suppressed voice. It might whisper that your career is a gilded cage, or that your marriage desperately needs radical honesty. This truth will be terrifying. It is supposed to be. The shadow always carries the exact, bitter medicine your persona refuses to swallow. By simply acknowledging this dark material, by letting it breathe in the morning silence, you strip away its explosive, unconscious power. Neuroscience calls this affect labeling. By consciously naming the hidden emotion, you actively reduce the amygdala's fear response and engage your logical prefrontal cortex. You are literally rewiring your brain's architecture, teaching your exhausted nervous system that it is finally safe to feel the entirety of your human experience. This is how the heavy dread transforms into clarity. The massive energy you spent repressing the shadow is suddenly returned to you as raw vitality. But confronting your own internal darkness in the morning bed is only half the battle. The true test awaits you in the living room. If you step out of your bedroom and fail to recognize how this shadow operates in the outside world, you will remain trapped in the cycle of misery. Because the most dangerous thing about the unconscious is not how it makes you feel in isolation, but how it forces you to secretly destroy the people you love. Carl Jung identified this destructive, unconscious mechanism. He called it projection. When you walk into the kitchen and immediately feel a surge of irrational anger at your spouse for a minor mistake, pay close attention. That sudden, out-of-proportion rage often has absolutely nothing to do with them. It is a desperate psychological defense mechanism. Your ego is taking the unbearable, suppressed parts of your own shadow and projecting them outward, like a movie onto a blank screen. The intense irritation you feel at your teenager's perceived laziness, it is often your own exhausted soul screaming for a rest that your rigid persona forbids. The furious resentment towards a coworker's arrogance, it is frequently your own buried ambition and unexpressed desire for power, locked in the basement. We unknowingly use our families, friends, and colleagues as mirrors, blindly attacking our own unhealed trauma reflected in their faces. This is precisely why midlife is plagued by sudden divorces, estranged children, and imploded careers. We destroy our external world trying to kill our internal demons. Modern neuroscience explains this as a faulty pattern recognition system. The stressed midlife brain, soaked in morning cortisol, desperately seeks a physical target to justify its panic. It is far easier and less painful to blame a messy house or an irritating email than to face the terrifying, suffocating void of your own unlived life. But Stoicism offers a sharp, uncompromising blade to cut through this comfortable illusion. The philosopher Epictetus warned us nearly 2 millennia ago. Men are disturbed not by things but by the views which they take of them. The obstacle is never external, it is entirely within your own mind. So, how do we stop this destructive cycle of projection before it burns down the life and the relationships we've spent 40 years building? It requires a brutal, unflinching commitment to radical self-ownership, a psychological practice the ancient alchemists referred to as separatio. When the sudden spike of rage, judgment, or intense annoyance hits you during your day, you must learn to instantly freeze the emotional reaction. Imagine a heavy iron gate dropping violently between your internal feeling and your physical response. Do not speak. Do not send the message. Do not react. In that agonizing, silent pause, turn the magnifying glass inward. Ask yourself the hardest question: why is this specific trigger so highly charged for me? What hidden, unhealed part of my own character is this person acting out on my behalf? What are they forcing me to look at? This is not about becoming passive or letting others mistreat you. It is about disarming the explosive charge of your own unconscious mind so you can act with clarity. As you practice this painful pause, day after day, a miraculous, measurable shift occurs in the neural pathways of your midlife brain. You begin to literally decouple the amygdala's primitive, panicked alarm system from your conscious, rational awareness. You build a space between stimulus and response. Slowly, the heavy, exhausting fog of midlife resentment begins to lift. You stop seeing enemies and threats hiding in every corner of your daily life. You realize that the people around you are just flawed, tired humans, stumbling through their own darkness, not malicious actors in your personal tragedy. This is the very essence of what Jung called the individuation process. It is the painful, lonely, but ultimately liberating journey of pulling your projections back into yourself. You gather the scattered, exiled fragments of your soul from the people you previously blamed, and you finally, courageously, take responsibility for them. But this path is not for the faint of heart. It requires the immense courage to look deeply into the cracked mirror and accept the flawed monster staring back at you. It means actively mourning the comforting illusion of your own perfection. It means accepting that you, too, are capable of profound selfishness, anger, and cruelty. Yet paradoxically, it is only within this dark, terrifying acceptance that true, unshakable psychological peace can ever be found. When you no longer have to spend massive amounts of daily energy hiding your flaws from yourself and the world, you become incredibly, dangerously free. Consider the countless men and women who do everything right. They build the perfect company, marry their college sweetheart, and buy the beautiful home. But behind closed doors, surrounded by the physical evidence of their success, they feel a hollow, echoing void that deeply terrifies them. They sit in their cars in the driveway at 6 p.m., staring blankly at the steering wheel, unable to summon the energy to walk through their own front door. They wonder, with crushing, silent guilt, why they are so deeply unhappy when they have been given everything they ever asked for. This is not ingratitude. This is the precise, agonizing moment the false self, the carefully constructed persona, runs entirely out of fuel. The tragic mistake we make at this crossroads is trying to fix an internal spiritual starvation with external material solutions. We blow up marriages, drain bank accounts, or numb ourselves with new addictions, mistakenly believing we just need a change of scenery to feel alive again. But as the Stoic philosopher Seneca brutally warned, you wander here and there to rid yourself of the burden that rests on you, but it follows you wherever you go. You cannot outrun the shadow. If you do not turn around and face it in the quiet of your own home, it will happily burn down your new life too. Realizing this inescapable truth is the ultimate turning point of your existence. Midlife is not a decline. It is a fierce, necessary initiation. It is the bloody, sacred transition from living for the fragile approval of the tribe to living in absolute alignment with your own sovereign soul. This is where the invisible magic of neuroplasticity becomes your greatest weapon. You are not too old to change. Your brain is literally starving for new instructions. Every time you pause instead of projecting, every single morning you sit with the dread instead of reaching for your phone, you forge a new neural pathway. You slowly, methodically starve the old circuits of anxiety and people-pleasing, and you heavily fortify the pathways of profound, grounded authenticity. The physical architecture of your brain begins to perfectly reflect the architecture of the inner citadel, impenetrable, radically calm, and deeply rooted. You finally begin to understand what Carl Jung meant when he uttered his most provocative truth: I would rather be whole than good. Being good means violently cutting off pieces of yourself to fit into society's neat, comfortable little boxes. It is the path of the exhausted persona. Being whole means welcoming the anger, the grief, and the dark, unacceptable desires back to the table, and leading them with mature wisdom. When the morning dread visits you tomorrow at 5 a.m., recognize it for what it truly is: an old, misunderstood friend, carrying the map to your buried treasure. Let it wash over you. Label the fear. Do not judge the exhaustion. Breathe deeply into the very center of the terrifying void. The alchemy will happen. The heavy, suffocating lead of your midlife depression will slowly transmute into the gold of absolute, unapologetic self-awareness. You will no longer need the external world to frantically validate you, because you have finally, permanently, stopped abandoning yourself. The frantic rush hour of life will continue outside your walls. The emails will still come. The societal pressures and family obligations will remain. But inside your mind, a profound, unshakable silence will take hold. You will become the calm, observing eye at the very center of the storm. This is the ultimate promise of ancient Stoicism and modern science combined. You can forge a mind that simply cannot be broken by age, loss, or circumstance. It requires only the immense courage to stop running, to turn around in the dark, and to look the monster of your own unconscious directly in the eye. For it is only by willingly descending into the terrifying depths of your own personal underworld that you can ever truly hope to reach the stars. The integration of your shadow is the hardest, most agonizing work you will ever do, but it is the only work that actually matters in the second half of your life. Your soul is waiting for you to wake up, not just biologically, but truly, deeply, and terrifyingly awake. The journey inward is yours alone to take. The gates of the inner citadel stand open, waiting for your return. May you find the strength to face your shadows tomorrow morning, and may you discover the profound peace that lies waiting on the other side.